So I'm not exactly sure why I didn't make this video sooner, especially since the journey kind of went from about January towards May towards early June of this year. But regardless, the best time to plant a tree is 50 years ago, and the second time to plant a tree is now. With that being said, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to talk about how I lost 40 pounds in 4 months. Before I delve into this journey, it's really important to talk about the specifics, the context, and how I got there. Throughout college, I was actually mostly a skinny kid, especially during my freshman and sophomore year. I remember the first time I went on a weight scale in freshman year, I was about 140, maybe 150 pounds, no more than that. And that was something that was pretty consistent throughout freshman and sophomore year. I remember I could pretty much eat whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to, and I really didn't care. And this ranged from like McDonald's, Subway, Chick-fil-A, and I wouldn't really gain any weight. And I also lived a pretty active fitness lifestyle, so although it wasn't the best regimen, this was more or less the case for throughout the first 2 years of college, and I stayed around this weight level more or less, having a very skinny but somewhat muscular physique, so on and so on. I had a jawline and whatnot. Anyways, COVID came around, and during the first few months of COVID, despite being locked in an apartment, like not being able to move in and out my complex, I still did calisthenics, I still did push-ups, whatever I could really to still maintain my physique. For the most part, I was largely successful with that endeavor. It was only when I started my junior year in the summer of 2020 or August 2020 is when I started gaining noticeable weight for the first time ever in my life. Throughout those 4-month period, I moved from New York City back to DC. And I remember DC literally being quite a ghost town during that time. Literally no one was on the streets. My school, university, my campus was completely dead. There was no one there. And I remember that time, there was also some financial problems I was going through due to an addiction I had with money, which is a separate story. But I think that, coupled with social isolation, coupled with not really caring about classes as much due to the fact that everything was online, those started to exacerbate my weight gain. So I knew it. I started ordering Uber Eats almost every single day. It was something that I was looking forward to towards the night, along with my 2 friends in DC, where almost every night, if I just wanted to watch a TV show, if I just wanted to lay down in bed, I could look forward to a meal from Uber Eats and just eat to my heart's content. And although I was going to the gym at the time, I was someone who never had to monitor my weight. I was someone who never had to maintain my calories before. And although I was getting stronger at the gym, I was also gaining weight at an unprecedented level. And it got to the point where by November, by December, I was starting to look at photos, and it was pretty clear that I had gained a significant amount of weight. And obviously my mental health was not as good as before. I had more breakdowns. I wasn't someone who was as happy as before. It was with that decision that I realized that DC wasn't good for me at the time. And I moved back from DC to New York City following that January due to the fact that classes were still online. So I canceled my dorm, canceled everything. And in a way that helped. I started walking more, going to the gym and doing a little bit more of a cardio related activities. And I was able to shed some pounds at the time. How many pounds? I don't exactly know, but this is where I will be telling you how I gained the weight again. So pretty much summer came along. I was a little bit chunkier than I was the first 2 years, relatively fit, still went to the gym consistently, but I was someone who did gain a little bit of weight now on my stomach, gained a little bit of weight on my face as well. Anyways, moving towards senior year, a similar cycle happened again, although for different reasons. And although I was happier, although I was a little bit more content from a mental health perspective, again, those habits of eating Uber Eats, consistently eating outside without care, with complete negligence, slowly caught up to me. And I remember one day, so from September to December, shortly after my trip from LA, I just started eating again, not really caring, and falsely believing that I was 190 at the time. So I remember telling my friends in November of 2021, December of 2021, that I'm 190. Look at me, I'm bench pressing like 260 pounds, 270 pounds. I'm squatting 270 pounds and I'm only 190. I remember one time in January, shortly after the new year, I was telling one of my best friends I was 190. And then he asked me, Mehdi, please step on the scale. For context, this is a friend of mine who's been a friend of mine for a long time. He's someone who's very honest, very clear cut. So when he asked me to step on the scale, I honestly expected to maybe see 190, 195, no more than 200. And I remember when I looked at that scale, I saw a number that I thought I would never reach. I remember back in freshman, sophomore year, I used to laugh at the fact that I could ever even be over 200 pounds. I took a lot of pride in the fact that I was under. Not that there's anything wrong with being that number, but at the time, due to just my lifestyle and the fact that I never really had to care for my weight, it was a number I thought I would never ever reach in a million years. So you can imagine how shocked I was when the scale came up and I was about 230 pounds. I was absolutely shocked at this. I couldn't stop staring at the scale, and in fact, I insisted to step on it 2 more times. I simply could not believe I reached that weight level. It was absolutely insane to me. I literally just could not believe it. It was crazy to me. 230 pounds. And then I looked myself long and hard in the mirror. I think that's when the illusion of me being 190, the illusion of me thinking that I looked like how I was in my freshman and sophomore year self kind of faded away, and I saw the reality for what it was. And I think this is a defining moment in my weight loss journey, because I think for all of us, there are choices we can make in life. Whenever there's a problem, there's a hardship, there's a difficulty in life, there are multiple choices, but I think there's also two main ones. Either let the problem overwhelm you, inundate you, and make you kind of cower back and overwhelm you, or you can recognize the problem as an opportunity that has yet to present itself. And at that moment, I wanted to call it quits. I was sick. I was in denial. I was honestly in denial, and I didn't want to believe that I had reached such a weight level. But with that being said, I had a choice to make, and I realized one of the biggest catalysts of the choices you make, or the choice to improve your life, is you have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. And what that really means, guys, is that when I saw that, I found it absolutely unacceptable, and not in a way that was self-deterious. I recognized that in order to lose the weight, I had to be grateful for where I was at today, no matter if I was 230 pounds, no matter if I was 300 pounds, no matter if I was 150 pounds. So regardless of where you're at in life, it's important to be grateful for where you're at and recognize that in order to have a better tomorrow, you need to make the most of today. At the same time, it's also important to recognize that you shouldn't be stagnant, you shouldn't be complacent. I think that was where I was at. So I recognized that changes had to be made, and some of these changes were not going to be easy. For the first time in my life, I had to swallow the bitter pill that I would have to start using a calorie tracker. This was something I prided myself over so much because of the fact that all my other friends had to use it, and I just thought of myself as that, I'm gonna be honest, I thought of myself as that one prodigy that was like, oh, I don't need to use a calorie tracker, I just let fitness do the talking, I have an active lifestyle. And I even had subconscious thoughts that if people want to lose the weight, it was on them, and they just had to be more active. And if they gained weight, it was due to their negligence. Moving forward, I'm grateful that I was humbled by that experience, because you realize that it's a conundrum. There's so many nuances to it. It's based on genetics, lifestyle, environmental predispositions, so on and so on. When I started the journey, I remember that day I downloaded my calorie tracker app, and following those first 2 weeks, I remember kind of inputting my calories as much as possible with my food. So the way I went about it, guys, and this is gonna vary based on your age, gender, and lifestyle, I went pretty aggressive with this in the sense that for me personally, graduation was coming up in 4 months. I wanted to lose as much weight as possible because I just found it, for me, unacceptable. I did not want to look like big. I didn't want to look overweight for my graduation photos. So I recognized that in order to do this, I went pretty aggressive. I went on a 2 pound a week cut. For some of you might be, that's too aggressive, that's too much. To each their own. I personally, coming out of it 6 months later, even though I lost some strength in compound movements like squats and bench, I myself don't regret that I went that way. I think it was actually very beneficial for me, and it gave me a level of discipline that I had to tap deep inside. Anyways, for you, it's going to vary. It could be a pound a week, half a pound a week. There's no necessarily right or wrong answer. It really varies based on what you want. For me, I went pretty hard at it, and 2 pounds a week. So my baseline calories for someone who was 6 foot at the time, almost 230 pounds, was about 3,200. So for me, if I wanted to lose 2 pounds a week, I had to cut it back to 2,100, because for every 500 calories you cut back a day, that leads to a pound of weight loss a week. So if you cut down 1,000 calories, that's double, so therefore 2 pounds a week. I think that was the biggest thing, and calorie trackers really are immensely helpful, not even just for weight loss, but just for developing a habit in general, because when you start inputting information each and every day, you start visualizing, you start literally seeing what you're consuming and what you are involving yourself with. So calories of the food I was consuming, I was shocked to see how grossly I underestimated these calories. And by seeing the calories, by seeing the macros, I began to have a better fundamental understanding of the foods I was consuming. I think second, following the consistent use of calorie trackers, which was honestly the biggest step for me. It was the biggest game changer in getting in shape slowly but surely, but also being consistent, also having a habit where I could track my results each and every day, which was also very useful for discipline. I think the second biggest thing is you need to eat clean. Right now, I'm going to be honest again, I'm on vacation and I haven't been eating clean late in the last 2 months. But during this 4 to 5 month time period, I found it absolutely necessary to start cooking my food, start meal prepping, so on and so on. And the reason why it's so important is because the vast majority of our foods are very oversaturated with fats, grease, oils, carbs, things that don't really satiate you. You need to have more protein-based foods that are more satiating, because usually these are food items that are lower in calories, but are also more fulfilling for you. So you won't have as many hunger pangs, you won't feel as hungry, you won't feel the need to snack on as much. And I found that when I ate more protein-based meals such as fish, chicken, etc., and I cooked that on my own, my calories were way less. They were still pretty tasty if I followed certain recipes, and I was losing the weight. I think third, the gym has to be a type of element in it, or rather working out consistently, being active. I would say walking is enough, but in terms of weight loss, especially if you want to lose more than, I would just say 10 pounds, there has to be some level of active weightlifting. There has to be some level of active athleticism with your agility, your speed, your stamina, not even just for weight, just for your health as well. There has to be some element of that, because that is the backbone of your progress. So although the diet and the calorie tracking is absolutely necessary, if you don't do either of those, this falls apart. I would say that weightlifting, being involved in the gym, having an active lifestyle is the backbone. It's to make sure that your plan doesn't fall apart. And even if you go to the gym consistently, recognize that it is a type of fallacy to think that just because you go to the gym, just because you have an active lifestyle, it's enough to run away from a bad diet. It is absolutely not. And I was someone who thought just because I went to the gym, I was indestructible, I was invulnerable from gaining weight, and that year I was shown very clearly I was completely wrong. So it's really important to recognize that. It's really important to understand that. And I think those are the 3 biggest tips I can give you. 1, use a calorie tracker. Guys, this is honestly 70%, 80% I would say of the reason I was successful, by understanding the foods I could eat, by understanding how many calories I was consuming, because I had such a misconception before, and by visualizing what you're eating, you're so much more proactive. And yes, it might seem like a big step to track and input your calories day in and day out, but I promise you, if you stick to something for 2 to 3 weeks, it becomes a habit. It becomes something that if you don't do it, you start feeling weird about it. And I also promise you, you will start visualizing your progress in the same way. For every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, you lose a pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, it will also show in that same tracker, and you'll slowly feel more and more motivated to keep pushing and reach your end goal. Cooking food, I understand that this is not necessarily an easy option, but the other alternative is relying on just fast food and foods that are not good for you, and especially for your long-term health as well, regardless of weight. This is not good for you. You'll be a skinny person, but still be consuming the worst foods on the planet, which will eventually clog your arteries and do a plethora of other health issues for you. So try to find time to meal prep. If you're proactive and you're more organized, I promise you, will have at least an hour to 2 hours to honestly cook for yourself and meal prep. Trust me, your future self will thank you for this. Thirdly, the gym. Try to find the gym. Try to be involved in calisthenics, weightlifting, anything you find that's athletic. It's good for your health. It's good for your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. And there's a plethora of different benefits that, again, your future self will thank you for. And I know there are more videos that are comprehensive about this, but I'm trying to simplify for you guys, because honestly, all these 3 steps were all I really needed, along with consistency, along with that intention to change, that made it enough for me to lose 40 pounds. So I'm so happy to say to you guys towards the end of this video that I went from 230 pounds in January to about 191, 190 by the time my birthday came around a few days after my graduation. And it was incredible, because I showed to myself that I could indeed change, that despite the 2 years of previous hardships and difficulties with weight that I never had before in my life, it was possible to reclaim ownership of my life and to become better and to become stronger both mentally and physically than ever before. And I hope in this video you find some resonance to your own story. I'm not sure what your story might be, but if you found anything familiar, or you want to comment any difficulties you might have, please send a comment down below. Again, recognize, keep it simple, don't make it complicated for yourself, and be consistent. Small steps lead to greater leaps. So try to stick with what you're doing, because your future self will thank you for it. And don't tackle the world. Weight loss is definitely possible, it's definitely real, but you need to have the discipline to see it through. You need to have the You need to have the intention. You need to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I promise you, if you have those 3 things, if you follow these 3 steps, if your intention is there, you want to change your life, I promise you, before you know it, you will lose the weight and perhaps one day make your own video on how you lost the weight for others to learn from. But with that being said, do more, think less.